Welcome back. We are going to dive right into something very crucial today. It's something that is so fundamental, so automatic, that you are doing it right now, probably without even thinking about it. I'm talking about breathing. You might be thinking, what's the big deal? It's just breathing. But it is so much more than that. The way you breathe can significantly affect your health. And unfortunately, a lot of people, their breathing habits are making them sick. Yes, your breathing could be harming you. So we're going to talk about the 5 ways that it can be harming you so that you can be aware of those. And if you notice that you are doing one of these things, you can stop those or pay attention to it and really start to focus on changing that habit. The first reason that you could be harming yourself by the way that you're breathing is if you are doing shallow breathing. This is what happens. People breathe in their chest. They often call it chest breathing. So it's when you breathe into your chest, and that expands rather than breathing into your diaphragm and your diaphragm expanding. This type of breathing doesn't use your lungs to its full capacity, and it can lead to lower levels of oxygen in the body. There was a study in the journal called Breathe. It was 2017, and they highlighted that shallow breathing could impact the body's ability to get enough oxygen, which led to fatigue, led to anxiety, and even impaired cognitive abilities. There is a YouTuber named Hank Green. He's also an author, and he has talked openly about his battle with COPD, which is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And he talked about how learning to breathe deeply instead of shallowly really helped his symptoms. The second reason you could be harming yourself by the way that you breathe is overbreathing, or it's called hyperventilation. So what happens with hyperventilation is this means that you breathe more quickly or deeply than necessary. That kind of thing. It could be one or the other. So overbreathing can disrupt the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide that your body needs, and it leads to symptoms like dizziness, lightheadedness. It can create confusion in your brain, shortness of breath, a rapid heartbeat, and even loss of consciousness in severe cases. Now I'm going to teach you a little tip, because sometimes people will do meditations or they'll do different practices where they're breathing deeply. Breathing deeply is a good thing. But if you start to feel dizzy, this is just a little tip. What that means is that you are not breathing out enough. I learned this from a high-level breathing coach. She taught me how when you breathe in, we think we breathe it all out, but we really don't. So if you start to get dizzy, force yourself to breathe out a little more. Like when you think you're done breathing out, breathe out even a little more. Force that out and you'll be amazed. I kind of didn't believe it. And then I would practice that, and I started to realize, you know what? Guess what? She kind of knows what she's talking about, and it's actually true. I want to introduce you to a fitness influencer. Her name is Hannah Bronfman. And once she spoke about experiencing panic attacks during a stressful period in her life. She was hyperventilating, and she didn't even realize it until a doctor pointed it out to her. And then she started implementing conscious breathing techniques, which made a massive difference in managing her anxiety and those feelings of panic. The third reason you could be harming your body by the way that you breathe is if you're breathing through your mouth. Our bodies are designed to breathe through our nose because nasal breathing helps to filter out dust. It filters out allergens. It actually helps warm up the air, and it even produces nitric oxide, which is a molecule that helps our lungs absorb oxygen. So we need to breathe through our nose a lot. Mouth breathing bypasses these benefits. So when you breathe in through your mouth, guess what? None of those things are happening, and it can potentially lead to dry mouth, bad breath, and a higher risk of infections. Because guess what? You're not letting your body filter those things out naturally. There was a study published in the Journal of Oral Rehabilitation. It was 2020. They found that chronic mouth breathing could also lead to long-term alterations in the oral microbiome, the balance in your mouth between the bacteria that you need in there and the bacteria that you don't want in there. And it potentially can contribute to oral disease. My husband is a dentist, so these are things that really matter to him, and I learn a lot from him about this. The fourth reason you could be damaging your health or your body because of the way you breathe is holding your breath. This is often something that people will do when they're under stress, when they're concentrating, and what this does is it disrupts the regular rhythm of your breathing, and it can increase your heart rate, it increases your blood pressure, and it can lead to feelings of anxiety and stress. I have to tell you the cutest story about my dad. He's almost 90 years old. And this was this was probably several years ago, maybe 5 years ago or so. And he's not super familiar with computers, but he's willing to learn. And for his age, he's doing a great job. Well, he went on a trip out of the country. I think he went to China, and he was at my house. And I really love technology, and I love creating videos and messing with my pictures and editing my pictures and doing all of those things. And so he asked me to help him create a folder with all of his China pictures. And so we got on the computer and I showed him how to do it. And we sat there, I showed him how to use the mouse and how to drag and drop them into the folder. So I created the folder for him and did certain things that might be way too complicated when he's not going to do it again. But actions that he was going to need to do over and over, I knew it would be fun for him to do that. So I noticed as he was dragging and dropping the pictures in, for him, that was a new task. It wasn't something that he was used to. And managing the mouse was new also. So he's managing the mouse, and I start to notice that he's grunting, and I wonder why he's grunting. And then I realize what he's doing is when he grabs a picture out of one folder, because I had two windows open on my screen, so he could take it out of one area of the computer and drag it into the folder that he wanted it in. He would take the mouse and he would drag the picture and drag it over, and you have to press the mouse down the whole time and keep it pressed, and that's new. So he's dragging it over like this, and then as I'm realizing he's holding his breath the whole time, and then as he drops it in the folder, he was grunting because he was holding his breath, and then he would breathe when he was at the end. And I thought, isn't that so sweet? My dad, who has taught me so many things, and all the times when I was a kid, learning things, learning how to ride a bike, learning how to fix things with tools, all the things that my dad helped me with. And it was kind of like a role reversal where it was exciting to be able to share that moment with him and realize that this was a skill. This was a new skill that he was learning. He had to concentrate so hard that he was holding his breath. So just remember that when you're stressed, when you have a lot to do, when you have a deadline, things like that, what happens is it can increase these symptoms that are not good for your body. I want to tell you about a man named Tim Ferriss. He is a renowned author, and he has openly talked about his battle with Lyme's disease and how his tendency to hold his breath during periods of high stress started to worsen his symptoms of Lyme's disease. And so when he started incorporating mindful breathing into his daily routine, he said it was a game changer. The fifth reason you could be making yourself sick by the way that you breathe is actually incorrect posture. This is an unusual one. If you're hunching over your computer or you're constantly looking down at your phone, stretching your neck down like this, they call it tech neck, anyone? What happens is it can reduce the lung capacity. So when you breathe in, you can't breathe in as big as you can when you're exposed in this way. So it reduces your lung capacity, and it can make it harder for your diaphragm to function correctly, especially if you're sitting, because then what happens is it's kind of squished. There was a study in the Journal of Physical Therapy Science, it was 2019, they found that poor posture could lead to decreased chest expansion, which means that your oxygen capacity was less. It affects your respiratory function, and we've already talked about several things that happen with your physical body when your respiratory function is low and when you're not getting enough oxygen. You'll notice if you ever go to a gym, if you ever work out with people online on their YouTube channels, you'll notice that they quite often talk about breathing and how you need to breathe. They include that in the workout because it's so important. There are your 5 things: shallow breathing, over breathing, mouth breathing, breath holding, and incorrect posture. These are all ways your breathing could be making you sick. But the good news is it's all fixable, very fixable, and it's fixable really easily. Just all you have to do is become aware of your breathing habits and just start to pay attention. Pick one, start to change that. But now that you're aware, you can do something about it. If you want to know more about the way you can change things so that you're breathing differently and tips and tricks for breathing, then continue watching this series because we get deeper into that. I'm doing this whole series on breathing because I don't want you to just be healthy. I want you to be better than healthy.